Mercedes reveal huge update for Mercedes car for 2024 after testing. So we're going to be going through that and 3 other stories in today's video. So make sure to like this video. And if you want more Mercedes news content like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel by hitting that red button down below. The first story is Mercedes are going all in on the Mercedes W15 after the testing results. Mercedes team principal Toto Wolff has revealed that the Silver Arrows have put a lot of time into improving their pit stops during the off-season, with that being an area where they've typically been weaker than their rivals. When it comes to pit stops, Red Bull and McLaren are comfortably clear of the field, with both teams more often than not completing staggering sub-2-second stops. Mercedes rarely produce pit stops below 3 seconds, costing them valuable time whenever Lewis Hamilton and George Russell enter the pits. During their dominant period, the Brackley-based side didn't have to worry about the speed of their pit stops because they were so much faster out on track. However, this is no longer the case. In order to take the fight to Red Bull and fight for victory, Mercedes must improve in all areas, with pit stops being one of them. To become faster, the Silver Arrows have put more resources into wheel-locking mechanisms and axle materials, with Wolff promising that the outfit won't be as conservative in 2024. He admits that the team didn't take any risks when it came to pit stops when the new regulations were introduced, something which has to change to be truly competitive at each Grand Prix. I think the regulations, how they were laid out a few years ago, we interpreted them in a very conservative way, Wolff told The Telegraph. And we've seen other teams doing it differently. So, watch this space. I think it's going to be very different. If Mercedes are able to produce pit stops around the 2-second mark on a regular basis in 2024, then this will work massively in their favor. However, for it to be truly effective, they need to have a competitive car. Mercedes are very optimistic about their 2024 challenger, the W15, which will be introduced on February 14th. An entirely new concept based on what they've learned from their mistakes has been developed by the German manufacturer, who are desperate to return to winning ways this year. The side didn't claim a single victory in 2023, with Hamilton alone having now not won a race since the 2021 Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. With less than a month go before the start of preseason testing in Bahrain, F1 teams are working around the clock to prepare their cars for the upcoming season, and like its rivals, Mercedes is in the trenches. After facing the challenge of designing a W15 contender that it hopes will bridge the gap to Red Bull, and then some, the Brackley squad's crews, are now in the process of manufacturing their promising machine. Mercedes says its success during this busy period is underpinned by its values and behaviors. The German outfit has worked hard to develop a strong team culture that allows them to work together effectively under pressure. Each department is expert in its field, but they all rely on each other to deliver a successful car. There is a strong emphasis on trust and respect, and problems are always solved quickly and efficiently. Mercedes F1 Chief Operating Officer Rob Thomas shed some light on what is going behind the scenes during this most intense period of the year. There are literally thousands and thousands of components arriving, going through inspection and levels of testing, Thomas explained in an interview on the team's website. Then they're built into various sub-assemblies for the test and development department, who'll put them through tests for fatigue, reliability, and performance. It's a really intense time for people in the factory because these departments are operating on shift patterns 24/7. People show huge levels of commitment. There's so much going on and everything must come together for these deadlines. It's crucial at this time of year to stick to the time frames and leave no stone unturned. We know that's what's required to put us in the best condition to go testing and racing. Otherwise, we'll find problems further down the line that have a much bigger impact. We're always trying to find that balance between speed and quality. Although Mercedes is a well-oiled machine in terms of its production and manufacturing functions, optimizing its processes has been a long-term undertaking. We've worked hard for years on behaviors in the team and making sure we have a defined set of values. It's really this time of year where it comes together. Everyone is in the factories, and each department is an expert in what they do. But to deliver the car, it relies on every department interacting so closely together. Everything is done respectfully, but very fast. There's a line of trust in each area. There's never finger-pointing. If anyone has an issue, they'll fix it, and if they need help, they'll come and ask. As a long-standing member of the Mercedes outfit who arrived at Brackley in 2010, Thomas has always recalled the December-January period as the busiest. The second story is Lewis Hamilton compulsion admitted as Mercedes chief gives honest F1 title verdict. Mercedes have no doubt Lewis Hamilton still has what it takes to challenge for Formula One glory, as the 39-year-old still has a compulsive need to win. His last race victory came at the 2021 Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. For the last 2 seasons, Mercedes have not been able to provide him with a car capable of going up against Max Verstappen in his mighty Red Bull machines. Questions have been raised over what Hamilton will be capable of when his team does manage to build a more competitive car. David Coulthard is one of those not convinced Hamilton still has what it takes to go toe-to-toe with Verstappen. The Scot said, "This is not Lewis at his prime. This is Lewis in a very frustrating 2-year state of underperforming. When he gets a winning car again, it'll be really interesting to see if he can rediscover the old Lewis magic." Mercedes are convinced that, at the very least, a lack of hunger for more success is not going to hold their star driver back. "I think you'd struggle to find a driver anywhere in the grid that wasn't motivated," said technical director James Allison. "I think that sort of comes with the territory with them, and generally speaking, the more successful the drivers have been, the more sort of inescapable that compulsive need to win is. In Lewis's case, it's just a core part of who he is, so there's no doubt about his motivation to get back to winning ways. But whether or not he can do that will be much more in the hands of the equipment we've given him than in his own hands. He's always had that ability there. Hamilton has a deal until the end of 2025, and should that hunger persist, this may not even be his last F1 deal. In any case, though, he will need Mercedes to return to the title fight sooner rather than later if he is to challenge for an 8th crown. And Christian Horner is in no doubt that his team's rivals will get back to winning ways. "I'm sure over the next 2 years we're going to see much closer racing," said the long-serving Red Bull chief. "We will not repeat the year. 2023 will go down as a unicorn year for us, that's for sure." Mercedes has great strength in depth. Obviously, they've had a difficult period, but they have great drivers and they will get it together, one would assume, at some point. Lewis Hamilton and the rest of the Mercedes team have been going through a difficult time ever since the new aerodynamic regulations were introduced. On the other hand, Red Bull has demonstrated their supremacy by winning both championships in the last 2 years. Given this ruthless domination, any other team and its members would have perhaps lost motivation. However, Silver Arrow's technical director James Allison has recently claimed that being a part of Mercedes in these difficult times has still been fun. In a recent interview with The Race, James Allison discussed his viewpoint on enjoying the challenge amidst Mercedes's downturn. He said, "Actually, it's lots of fun. It isn't as much fun as winning, that's definitely true. But you have to sort of love the whole of the sport, and the whole of the sport involves taking your licks when you haven't done a good enough job." Additionally, the technical director stated that one thing he admires about the Milton Keynes side's present performance is their perseverance in the face of difficulty. Allison's statement highlighted the challenging moment for Red Bull, which started in 2014, the year that Mercedes began to dominate the turbo-hybrid era. However, gaining a competitive advantage over rivals takes years, even for a team with all the required expertise and resources. Therefore, once the dominance is accomplished, it usually lasts long enough to set numerous records. Toto Wolff and the team have endured enough misery over the past 2 years. The team has only won 1 Grand Prix in this time, and that was at the Interlagos track in 2022. Undoubtedly, this statistic could be devastating for Wolff, who has led the squad to unprecedented success. The third story is why Mercedes thinks it can lure Red Bull in. The past 2 seasons must have been painful for Mercedes. The team dominated from 2014 through 2020, but the Silver Arrows struggled to make sense of the newest regulations and saw the unique zero-pod concept fail. So now the task is to pick up the pieces and take a big step forward this term. The squad is confident this will happen. Improvement was visible by the end of 2023 after the zero pods were ditched, and after Mercedes introduced a new floor in the United States, a further boost was given. It wasn't always reflected in the results, but Lewis Hamilton and George Russell were appreciative of the developments. Mercedes ticked another important box this winter off-track as team principal Toto Wolff and technical director James Allison extended their contracts to be around when new regulations are once again introduced in 2026. Red Bull has dominated almost every facet of F1 in the past 2 seasons. especially last term where only Carlos Sainz prevented a clean sweep of race victories for Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez. But speaking to Racer, Allison has revealed his confidence the gap can be bridged. We are hopeful that the lesser characteristics of the rear wing and handling will be a bit more preferable for us. We've only seen that in the simulations for now, but it's plausible that we've made some gains on the rear wing. And then you also have all the regular work to make the car lighter, give it more downforce, and hopefully get a little bit more power by calibrating the engine. You can still do that under the current regulations. Engines are in principle no longer allowed to be further developed, but of course, as a manufacturer, reliability improvements may provide a performance boost. But while Allison knows what Mercedes should be able to show, the mystery of rivals' performance deters too much confidence.